Okay, there I go. I'm talking a lot again and getting cut off by screencast. So I'll try to speed it up. A lot of the comments will become repetitive. All right, 3 is the Claire Booth Luce text. This is probably one of my favorite prompts. I really like this one because she herself is a journalist talking to her peers. So it's a really interesting occasion, essentially, that she's been asked to speak at. This one, I said there's a lot of vagueness in the way things are worded. Specifically, these author says, uses certain rhetorical strategies to convey intended purpose. That's very vague. Which strategies? Which intended purpose? Just delete this part entirely and tell me explicitly which strategies you're focusing on and what the intended purpose are. And if you're going to do that later, then having this here is really just repetitive. So get rid of it. The thesis statement is not in one sentence, it's just like number 2. And possibly a thesaurus was used. At this point, I'm pretty good at knowing your writing and knowing what to expect from you as individuals and also as groups. And many of you worked in the partners that you typically work in. I tried to keep it that way with a few exceptions. So just remember that you won't have access to those sorts of things on the exam. Do I think this one would get the thesis statement point? I do. I think. I can't remember if I purpose to criticize. Yes, there is a clearly articulated intended purpose. So yes, I do. Okay, option 4. Option 4 I said was great. Okay, I was really impressed by this one. Again, I would use syntax and diction. I would include an adjective before them in order to tell me specifically what you're going to analyze. I was a little bit concerned with this one because while it's a great introduction full of very relevant context, I was a little concerned that some of the context might have been gathered from outside research. This rhetorical device, amplification, not one that we've necessarily discussed in class, was another clue that perhaps you had done some research. If that's not the case, then this is a really strong introduction and thesis statement, and it would get the point. Option 5, this one kind of spans the length of 2 pages, so I apologize for the fragmentation there, but you're able to see it on your copy. Option 5 was really monotonous to me because of the sentence lengths, and I think this is really good practice with syntax, so I appreciate the author or authors providing this one with us, right? A lot of them, look, where did I see this specifically? He pursued education by studying law and social interaction. He became very influential during the 20th century when he quickly climbed his rank in the Indian National Congress. Later, he led a march. It's all just very monotonous, and I think that's based on sentence length. What else did I say? This is number 5. I'm also concerned perhaps research was conducted here. There's some irrelevant context in the introduction. Everything should be relevant to the intended purpose. We don't need to know anything extra. It all should be relevant. Like, he pursued education by studying law and social interaction. Is that necessarily relevant to the intended purpose? Is that relevant to the prompt? I would argue not necessarily important here. Okay, there's a confusing thesis statement with weak modifiers. For example, he strategically used words so they have an equal impact with his actions. Considering the words he used, he must have strategically and wisely. That's very weak modifiers. He must have. When you say something like must have, should have, could have, you're essentially admitting to the reader that you're not as confident. All right, so get rid of those modifiers. And then here we used appeals, reason and logic. Those are both appeals. Diction is the only actual device here. And reason and logic are actually the same appeal. They're logos. So when we're looking at this, we only have one. I'm torn here. I'm not exactly sure if this one would get the, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm not torn. It would get the thesis because there is an intended purpose, and there is ultimately, the author does redeem him or herself by including actual devices here, sentence length, diction, and repetition, but there's a lot of awkwardness, and it causes a lot of confusion for the reader within this paragraph. Okay, I'm gonna do a third screencast in just a second.